What if I told you that the reason you have social security, or even modern-day therapy, might be because of a board game? Sounds far-fetched, right? But it's true. The ripple effect of these tabletop adventures stretches far beyond your living room. They've influenced the way we think about money, stories, teamwork, even survival. You see, board games aren't just play. They're practice for real life. They've helped shape everything from economic policy to pop culture to how we learn and interact as human beings. You think board games are just for fun? Think again. Underneath those dice, cards, and colorful boards lie deep ideas, strategies, ideologies, worldviews that have seeped into every corner of modern life. And today we're going to uncover how some of the most iconic games did just that. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a game board the same way again. The strategic blueprint: how board games shaped business and economics monopoly. The capitalist critique that became a capitalist icon. Let's start with Monopoly. Most people know it as a game about buying property and bankrupting your friends. But the story behind it is way more complicated and way more important. Monopoly began as the landlord's game, invented in 1904 by a woman named Lizzie McGee. It was actually created to teach people about the dangers of wealth inequality and monopolies. She designed it to show how land ownership could concentrate power and hurt society. Ironically, when Parker Brothers popularized the game decades later, they removed the critical message and turned it into a celebration of wealth and domination. And yet, despite this twist, Monopoly still ended up teaching generations about economics, mortgages, rent, debt, asset trading, and more. Whether you realized it or not, playing Monopoly trained you in the mechanics of capitalism, and that lesson has had a lasting effect. Gamification, from points and progress to everyday apps. Next, let's talk about something you probably use every single day: gamification. Earning points on your fitness app, completing daily streaks on Duolingo, unlocking rewards at your favorite coffee shop. Where did all that come from? From games. Board games were the original progression systems. They gave you goals, levels, rewards. They made you want to keep going. These mechanics migrated into digital platforms where they now influence everything from learning to shopping. Gamification motivates behavior, and it started at the tabletop. Board games taught us how to crave progress, compete, collaborate, and keep score. In a way, your to-do list is just a board game in disguise. Risk: thinking globally, strategically, and ruthlessly. Then there's Risk, the iconic game of global conquest. You're not just rolling dice. You're planning moves 5 steps ahead. You're negotiating, bluffing, deciding when to strike and when to retreat. Risk gave people a geopolitical mindset long before they could spell geopolitical. And it's more than just fun. It subtly trained players to think like strategists, weighing risk versus reward, managing limited resources, and understanding the impact of territory control. The influence of Risk can be seen in everything from corporate takeover strategies to military training simulations. It's not just a war game. It's a lesson in power dynamics and long-term planning. Narrative architectures, how board games reshaped storytelling and media. Clue. The birth of interactive mystery Clue might seem like just a party game, but it introduced an enduring structure that changed storytelling forever. Suspects, motives, methods, and locations. It gave us a template for mystery that's now used across crime dramas, true crime podcasts, detective novels, and interactive experiences. The brilliance of Clue is in how it makes you reconstruct a story backward, from clues to conclusions. And that reverse storytelling process? It's become a foundational tool in modern media. Dungeons and Dragons: The Storytelling Revolution. Then came Dungeons and Dragons, arguably the most transformative game ever made. In the 1970s, D&D broke every rule. There were no winners, no end goal. Instead, you played a role. You built a world. You created a story together. This collaborative, improvisational style of storytelling completely changed the landscape of fiction. Fantasy literature exploded. Role-playing video games like Final Fantasy, Skyrim, and Mass Effect owe everything to D&D. And more than that, it taught people how to co-create stories, develop characters with emotional depth, and navigate ethical dilemmas through imagination. Today, D&D is used in therapy, education, and creative writing, not just because it's fun, but because it's transformative. Social and psychological shifts, how games mirror and mold society. The game of life, the board game version of the American dream. The game of life feels harmless, even nostalgic. Spin the wheel, go to college, get a job, have kids, retire. But when you really look at it, it's more than a game. It's a social script. Created in the 1950s, life represented a very specific view of success: education, marriage, homeownership, wealth. But as time passed, editions of the game changed, offering new life paths, reflecting changing values around family, gender roles, and career options. The game of life is a cultural mirror. It shows us who we wanted to be and how those dreams have evolved. Dixit, teaching empathy through abstract play. Now let's talk about Dixit, a modern game that's less about logic and more about feeling. Players describe surreal images using metaphors, dreams, or subtle hints. The goal isn't accuracy, it's understanding. Dixit doesn't just entertain, it teaches empathy. It encourages us to see the world through another person's eyes. It sharpens emotional intelligence and fosters deeper communication. Pandemic, cooperation in a time of crisis. Finally, there's Pandemic, a game where you don't play against each other, but with each other, against a common threat. Each player has a role. You work together to contain outbreaks, discover cures, and manage global chaos. The only way to win? Collaborate. When the real-world pandemic hit, Pandemic felt eerily prescient. But more than that, it became a tool for discussing collective responsibility, systems thinking, and resilience. It showed that in the face of crisis, teamwork and communication aren't optional. They're essential. The end game, legacy and future of board games, the core skills that still matter. From the earliest strategy games to today's cooperative masterpieces, board games have always honed real-world skills: negotiation, resource management, pattern recognition, emotional reading, risk assessment, creative problem-solving. These aren't just game mechanics, they're life skills. Digital descendants, the line between physical and virtual games. Many of today's video games are direct descendants of board games. Civilization, Hearthstone, XCOM, Slay the Spire, Gloomhaven Digital, they all borrow from analog mechanics. Even virtual reality games use systems first tested in cardboard form: action points, turn orders, skill trees, cooperative quests. The digital world hasn't replaced board games, it's built on them. The next role, where games are going. So, what's next? Board games are being used to tackle big ideas: climate change, data ethics, systemic inequality, even artificial intelligence. Imagine games where you simulate a sustainable city, or one where you play as AI making decisions that affect human lives. Designers are experimenting with ethical dilemmas, empathy building, and social impact, using games as more than play, but as reflection. Board games are no longer just about winning. They're about understanding. Conclusion: it's more than just a game. So the next time you see a board game, think about what it's really doing. It might be teaching your kids about economics. It might be helping someone process grief. It might be giving a student confidence, or helping a team learn to cooperate. Board games are more than entertainment. They're a lens through which we've come to understand our world and ourselves. The dice may be small, but the impact? Massive. And that's how board games, quietly and consistently, have shaped modern culture. Thanks for watching. And remember, the next roll of the dice might change more than just the game. Know more. Be more.